And he like, we're crossing the street. And then he didn't stop. It was like, whoa.
When I was a kid, we went on one vacation, and that was to Myrtle Beach.
And it was your
During
bike.
bike
Week.
And we were in our
Every weekend.
station. We didn't know, but when we first pulled into town, we were in our station wagon, and it was the middle of, I don't know, bike week. But it was the wildest thing I've ever seen. My mom was saying, "Boys, keep your eyes in the car." People hanging over the balconies. And,
I got one down. We took the youth group from the church,
Oh,
and they wanted ice cream. Well, we didn't know what was going on. We got the ice cream, but we poured containers of it to take back to the house. We were renting for the evening. The ice cream melted before we got back to the
I
house.
got one better than that. First time I ever saw the beach house.
I lost my religion
And
that
some
time.
folks I shouldn't have been.
yeah.
And the only time I lied to my daddy, I told him I was gonna spend the night with a friend and we were gonna leave to the beach next night. We left that night and they weren't sober when they picked me up. And I just had gotten my license. I didn't even know where the beach was. So we leave.
Just head east.
We left planning like that. 11 o'clock at night, we left the beach like that. 8 o'clock the next morning. Oh my God. And it, no, we went
All right, 6 o'clock.
When you pray, you can ask for forgiveness.
he walked in. He walked back out.
He's coming out back in. We'll wait for him to come in.
Right. So we decided, well, we can't go in, let's just go sit on the beach. So we all took our shirts off, got on the sand, fell asleep. 3 hours later.
You were burned to a crisp.
told this.
Oh my gosh.
We can't really.
Right.
Yeah, stupid.
Okay, Sonia, are we ready? Carl? I'm ready. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting for our budget workshop. I think we don't have this on the budget, but I think we ought to have a prayer before we start. So, Mr. Kirkendall, would you lead us in the invocation?
Let us stand. Gracious God, we give thanks, O Lord, for this meeting, and we ask now, Lord, for your guidance in some of the things we're going to be faced with. We give thanks for the decisions that we've made, and we ask, Lord, that your presence be in our guidance and be our guide for as we move forward. And we ask your blessings upon this council, and we ask your blessings upon all those in attendance today and those that may be listening to us over the internet. And Lord, we ask that you bless the things that we do, and most kindly we give thanks to you, God. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
We can.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we start, we know this is first budget workshop for at least two of us, so we thought it'd be good for us to all get a refresher from Ms. Naomi Reed from the Municipal Association. So if you will step forward, we welcome you. We thank you. You've been with us a lot lately, and so and we appreciate all the good help that you have given us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council, Mr. Administrators, Madam Clerk, and the rest of staff and visitors. Thank you all for having me here tonight. I'll be brief because I know y'all want to hear the star of the show here for your budget workshop. In most municipalities where there is a few new members, it's a good opportunity for the Municipal Association to come out and do a quick presentation on just how budgets work, why we have budgets. I know some of this is going to be old news to some of our most tenured council members, but I'll just get right into it. So on the slide that you see there in front of you, municipalities in South Carolina must adopt a balanced budget annually. No expenditure from council can be authorized by the budget without a budget ordinance that is approved by council. And then local code does provide for some discretion within your local code in your budget ordinance to allow for expenditure discretion to be changed around by different members of your organization. Here, it's likely your city manager that would have that flexibility to move within certain line items based on your budget ordinance, but ultimately, it's back to council for some of those changes. So on our next slide here, we'll just talk about council's responsibility. It looks different in different forms of government. In the council form of government, typically you'll see council appoint someone like an administrator or a clerk treasurer or another member of the staff to present and prepare the budget. In mayor council form of government, the mayor's responsibility by state law is to present and prepare the budget. And in council manager form of government, in your form of government, the manager's responsibility to present and prepare the budget. Obviously, in each form, the manager has staff, the mayor has staff, and the council has staff that can help get that budget across the finish line and to you all for consideration to be adopted. But the responsibility of council is the overall financial oversight of that budget. So staff takes, I'm sure, many, many months preparing and working on the budget, speaking with department heads and building up the ask and putting them forward in front of you all in a balanced manner so that you all can make those budget considerations based on that balanced budget that's presented to you. It's your responsibility as council to maintain and enforce the standards of the budget that gets adopted. So once the budget is approved by you all, the manager should have monthly reports to you all provided by the interim manager and finance director to make sure that y'all are staying on track with the budget that's been approved by you all. You also have responsibility of approving any financing that would support any capital related to the budget. And so when you're looking at the proposal that's presented to you tonight, understanding what your role is as council would be important, especially for some of our newer members. And obviously you're not going to get it here in this 5-minute snapshot, but this just gives a good high-level overview of the responsibilities on council. Pretty much said that. We can skip that slide. Okay. This is just a quick visual of what I said previously, the responsibility of the budget in the different various forms of government. And then when we talk about the budget process and how we get here, I'm sure Carl's going to explain to you some of that and how each department's request came to be. There's a lot of moving parts when you're formulating a budget to put together, and so by the time it gets to you all, and I'm speaking from a place from my heart because I used to be a finance director, and so I understand the work that goes into it and all the questions that have to be asked to get to the point of a balanced budget. So by the time it gets to you all, it is your responsibility to approve it, review it, and adopt it, but understanding that the work that was put into it has come from a place of many, many months of research and questions, and one budget number is likely leaning on another to present to you all a budget that's balanced. And so any changes or flexibilities that you have or questions that you might have of the staff here, understanding that if you say I want this may not happen, and the budget then does not become balanced, and you got to start back at the drawing board. Your budget year is July 1, June 30, so you must adopt the budget by June 30. So we're in May. So you have to have a public hearing and 2 readings of your budget to make sure that you are following state law. Skip that budget calendar piece. Where are we at here? Let's skip that one. All right. I just talked to the administrator just before the meeting, and there is an ask of us to do a strategic plan, kind of like a goal-setting workshop with you all, and we will follow the budget. Typically, you see it prior to the budget, but timing, and so we're going to get that established, but that's what drives what's supposed to go into your budget, the strategic goals and priorities of council. And so the budget that you see tonight will carry forward some of the goals and visions that y'all set previously. And then the budget cycle, this is the Municipal Association's 4 bullet points of the budget cycle: preparation, which like those months that we talked about, and then adoption is what the city council will do, and then implementation is after it's adopted, then staff will implement that budget and monitor it, and then ongoing review is in those monthly financial reports that you all will likely receive, or quarterly, however often the frequency is, and that's where you have an opportunity to make sure that your budget maintains its balance, and that they are meeting your goals and expectations throughout your budget process. This slide does not apply. I just forgot to pull it out. But it's basically talking about after the budget is adopted, that you all have an annual audit each year. That is also required by state law, and this was mainly for Carl's benefit to make sure that those state reports that's due to the state, they're highlighted here. The state does require by state law having certain reports due to them by March 15th. There's an annual debt report and an annual financial report, and it's all supported by your budget. So if there are not any other questions, that's all I have for you tonight.
Any questions of Ms. Reed? All right. Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here.
I appreciate
Always
it.
good to have you in here with us.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just like Naomi stated, there is quite a bit of work that goes into this document. It's really, the process starts in January when we start putting this together. We put out to every department the first ask is their capital request needs for the upcoming year. As we're working at that, you know, the basic process with the budget is to start building what we expect our revenue to be for the next year, because our revenues have to match our expenditures. So this will be the third budget I've prepared since I've been here. I would say 95, 98% of my revenue targets have been hit every year, or each of the other years. We are right on target with pretty much everything, or very close for this current fiscal year. So there wasn't a whole lot of deviation in the current revenue projection from previous year, unless there was something that supported a bigger change. When we get into the individual funds, you'll notice like in the general fund, I did have a very big increase of property taxes. But when we budgeted last year, we had a poor performance 2 years ago. That was because of basically a loss credit factor was overcalculated and we gave away too much loss credit. So we lost a lot of property tax. We corrected that in previous years. And in this year, I think I had a budget of $1,048,000 for property taxes. Mm-hmm. We're at $1,350,000 this year, right now. So I adjusted accordingly. So once we set a revenue target for the city, for the utility fund and the general fund, then we go back. Next step is to look at salaries and benefits. Outside of PDMPA costs in Lawrence County Water and Sewer, salaries and benefits are our biggest expenditure. So that goes through a process of who we currently have, you know, what kind of changes in departments are going to happen. If, you know, for example, someone in the police department might get elevated up to a sergeant. So we make sure that all those pieces are looked at, and then we start planning, because I know for right now, the sewer division and the water division, they're both short 2 people. So we make sure that things like that, open positions, are in there so we can project out a reasonable cost for our salaries and benefits. As I'm doing that, departments will get their individual operating expenses budgets. They will go through that and build that for us. So basically at the same time, I get back the operation budget as well as the capital budget. So what I did for the booklet that you got, I guess a week and a half ago, that was basically taking all the parts that we had and put it together. And the whole point of that first booklet was to show you what an unbalanced budget looks like, and what, where I am starting from when we start, doing the cutting and we're moving around. So if you notice that last budget book was, we had a negative fund balance of 4.5 million. So I had 4.5 million to figure out where to cut or move. So, and we'll get into that as we go through the different departments. So today's budget that you're looking at is after we left our council meeting, and I gave you that first booklet, we met with department heads. We talked about what was an absolute have to have, what was a nice to have, and what can we cut, if there was something we cut. Now in this pass, I pretty much did not touch anything from a salaries perspective or an operating expense. So basically all the cuts were managed through capital. So the capital expenditure is fairly low for this year. But I think it's, we've had a large investment in our fleet, especially in our police vehicles, which is much needed, getting that fleet up to date. So we are fairly, there are certain things that we would like to have, but they cost a lot of money, and we have to work with what's coming in. And if we see that, revenue is looking better, then we can make adjustments from there. But until that happens, we have to work within this boundary. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions before I start going through the different funds? All right, so let's start with the general fund. We'll go through the revenue really quick, but I already mentioned that our property taxes, the big increase in property taxes was pretty much due to current year's performance. One thing I did not put in this draft of this budget was a millage increase. I kept the millage exactly the same, didn't touch it. So with all the growth, the new houses coming in, we should make this number very easily next year. The only other change in impact fees, last year we budgeted for 25 new homes, impact fees on 25 new homes. Right now we're at 41 homes. We have Stone Creek starting to get moving on their building. The Springdale Towns is going to start construction next week. We'll have Prosperity, Clinton Commons over on East Main Street. They're in their phase of site building, and within this year they'll start building homes. So even the 50 homes budgeted for this current year, I think is very low, but I think, once again, I like my numbers to be obtainable and make sure we're gonna hit our revenue numbers. Most other things are pretty much the same. I did have a little bit increase in business licenses just because of performance between last year and this year. I did add a PARD grant for $53,000. You see that in the middle of the first page. That PARD grant has been secured to do the covering over the batting cages out of the rec center. And that's basically free money for us to finish that project out without having to pay extra money to GMK. Now, when we get down to the bottom, actually on the next page.
Did we lose an SRO funding?
No, we just had more capital purchase last year for SRO.
Okay.
So what I have right here is we have 7 SRO officers. We didn't lose anything. This is based on their pay, getting reimbursed for their pay, but their capital request for next year was only $25,000.
Gotcha.
So that's why you see a drop on that.
Okay, so their salaries are secured.
Yes.
We're not losing any. Gotcha.
No, no.
Perfect.
So go back to the impact fee.
Uh-huh.
So that figure is based on projected houses that's going to be built, not houses not impact fee money that we already have.
No, that is
Springfield have nothing as of yet.
correct. Right.
And can you explain the impact fee? How do we incur the impact fee?
So when a builder comes to pull a permit to build a house, they have to pay for the permit and the impact fee at that point in time. So it is so most builders will come in, D.R. Horton, I was told, is gonna come back in the next 2 weeks and pull another 10 permits. So that's another 10 impact fees that will come in next week with D.R. Horton, or in two weeks. Lennar is coming in with 5 townhomes, or their first block of townhomes, which will be a block of 5. Now they run a little bit different, a townhome, since they are there's 5 in a unit basically. Each townhome is half of a normal house impact fee. You know, there's different schedules. There'll be different things when we put a hotel in. So, you know, these are done as the builder comes in and pulls their permit to build a house.
So this is just a projected amount.
Correct.
This is what you hoping that we get.
Oh, I know
per se.
we'll get this. We'll probably double that.
But right now, we don't have that.
No. But our performance this year, in the 24-25 budget, I budgeted for 25 homes. We're at 41. So you have 2 major developments getting ready to kick off and get off the ground with Springdale Towns and Clinton Commons. So that paired along with D.R. Horton, I mean, you have 3 in process right now. We have land that's being closed on and others that will start building next fiscal year. So we could potentially hit 75 to 100 as I budget through everything like I have for the last couple of years. I tend to come in very conservative, 50 homes. We'll hit that.
But the budget is a projection.
Correct.
I mean, that's,
I understand that.
So an average home that goes up, just give us an example of what the impact fee would be.
The impact fee is $4,751 for each home.
Repeat that amount again.
$4,751. And that is broken down between police, fire, and recreation.
All right.
So these are how, when our community grows and we need to buy a new fire truck, or we need to build a fire substation, or we need to add this, or we need something out of the rec center, this is how we fund that growth.
So what is the total of about 11 houses so far that's in, what's that development, Stone Creek?
There's 13 there.
13 now? So they have all paid.
Yeah, they have to pay before they start building.
And you said the townhouse is supposed to start next week.
Yes, ma'am. They are waiting for Jeff to finish his plan review. So I told him he better have it done by tomorrow.
And that's right across the entrance to the recreation facility.
Correct.
And you called another development at Clinton?
Clinton Commons, which is over on East Main.
Yeah.
Clinton Commons is currently doing their site development. So you probably got another, 3-4 months of site development. But their first phase 1 has, I think, roughly 40 to 50 homes. 44 homes.
it's looking good over there. It's changes, a lot of dirt being moved.
But no houses there yet.
Not yet. They'll come soon enough.
Okay.
All right, so on the second page for the general fund revenue, there's only a couple more lines. First thing you're gonna notice is that the contributions from the utility department have gone down significantly, about almost or $500,000, yeah, $500,000. We have, and there's a new line on there called the CEDC payment from the Clinton Economic Development Corporation. This number is based on 2 land sales that are getting ready to happen. We're getting ready to close on the Leonard property, which is on the left side of the rec center. And then we're getting ready to close on the land behind the QT on 72. Those two, we're gonna recoup the little bit of cost that we have in the land behind QT. The Leonard property, I believe, was donated to us. And what we have worked out with the CEDC is that when the CEDC makes a sale like that going forward, the city will first recoup its costs, or the CEDC, either one will recoup the costs that they have in the sale. Then the proceeds that are available after that will be split 50-50 between the city and the CEDC. And the purpose of that is the CEDC needs to have operating capital, so if there becomes a piece of property they want to buy that's advantageous, would be good to have to bring further development into the city, they have that ability to operate and do that. They have a $500,000 obligation to do the parking lot over by Industrial Supply, which is, they have to have that money to operate. So this is how we fund those things and then fund that further economic development.
Is this the first year of this?
Yes, this is the first time this is happening. We've never really, in the existence of the CEDC, really made these transit. Basically, we moved the money over. It's sat over there. Now, just so you all know, the CEDC, we're in the process of bringing all the financials for the CEDC over in-house. We just weren't getting the response we needed from the accountants that were doing it. So I am now in the midst of transferring that and converting it into QuickBooks, and then we have the audit for the CEDC happening right as we speak. So I'm in the middle of that too. But this allows me to have control over the finances for both. That way I can make sure that what comes out of the city goes to the city, that we have proper, and we know exactly what's owed to who.
Is the city paid for that service? To keep those books?
Not really. I do it out of the kindness of my heart.
So the money that the county gave to the city, that was for downtown, where is that?
That was not given to the city, that was given to the CEDC, and that was, the $250,000 was to go to the parking lot. That money that Thomas Higgs came in and gave us was to the CEDC for the parking lot, because they were splitting the cost of the $500,000 that was committed for the parking lot at the Industrial Supply.
Okay, I misunderstood it, because I thought they said we can use, when they presented that money,
No.
they said because of the hardship of everything that we have had, that we could use that money, the city could use that money any way they wanted to. That was what those two men that stood behind that podium said.
Yes, ma'am, but it was directed towards that parking lot. That's really what it was for. That was the whole intent and purpose. I don't know why that was said, but that $250,000 was brought over. Check was made out to the CEDC, and that was been worked out with the Lawrence County Development Corporation to finish that parking lot.
Right. Okay.
So with bringing in the two sales, and the only reason I put them on here was because they're getting ready to close. I mean, we're at the finish line with both of those.
So that's this is a one-off
Correct.
budget.
This is a one-off, so this gave me the ability to ease up on the utility fund for a year.
It's
Everything else-
always our intent to try to ease the contribution from the utility fund to the general fund if possible.
Yes.
Every year, and
Well,
as we grow, we'll be able to, hopefully.
the plan is, and it takes all these developments. It takes a Cambridge Farms. I mean, Cambridge Farms, when you look at it, that is $2.8 million of impact fees alone. That is $700,000-800,000 a year in property tax every year. Development like that, all these developments that happen, help us build a base where we can make the general fund self-sufficient instead of having to go back to the utility fund. And, you know, we have the limitation, we can only borrow up to 8% from the utility fund. And I can tell you right now, I could chew that money up in a heartbeat. But as we grow, I mean, and I'm not beating the dead horse with Cambridge Farms, but Cambridge Farms, if you put the average value of those houses that were gonna go in there, you had a tax base of about 210 million. Our tax base right now is 253 million.
That's providing the houses get sold.
No, they get built. They're on the tax roll. I mean, someone has to pay for it. But the growth is coming. I would highly doubt developers are going to come here and build without being able to sell houses. Over the years, and now Cambridge is a 10-year project. It's not something that's going to pop in the city overnight. Or, you know, all these developments take time. You know, by the time we start talking today, you're 2 to 3 years before developments are underway, halfway done. You know, it takes time. But over the years, when these multiple developments are coming in, it adds to our tax base. And when you look at where our tax base is now and where it can be with future development, you know, the other complex across the highway that everybody's excited about, that's a massive, not only a large tax base, that's H&A tax, that's property taxes, that's, you know, business licenses, all kinds of things that come with that. Those are the things that we need to make the general fund more self-reliant on itself and not having to go to the utility fund.
An example of how that forward thinking works is that, gosh, what, 15 years ago probably, or a little more, was when we first got the money for the frontage road that's
Right.
built down there. And we also got the money through the governor's office, through people we had working and helping us to put sewer in at that 72 interchange.
Correct.
Which before that, you could not have had Hampton Inn, any of those restaurants, the QT, anything out there would have not gone in. And everybody, you know, we had a lot of people that were saying, you're all crazy putting that money in that road across there and putting sewer out there. And look out there right now, which is blowing up and getting ready to get even bigger.
Correct.
That's because we had the forethought to look ahead instead of waiting for something to happen. It would have never happened.
Correct. It takes a lot of forethought, planning to get things like that in. Now, fortunately for us, the electricity is now across the highway. We have water and sewer across the highway that's sufficient to handle the project that is slated to go out there. I also, you know, I think the management team here also looks at that project as a major catalyst for the growth in the city. I think if that happens, and that many people come through our city every week, you're gonna see a lot of other things start to pop up. With all the developments down there, you gotta have a grocery store down that side of town. There's a lot of things that are gonna start happening with the city because of the growth, but we need the growth. It has to come. I fought it, and I mean, I had the same thing in Chapin. So,
Okay.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Get anything from nothing is actually going in that building across from the gas company that we had projected that was
Not true.
going to.
They just pulled a permit to put $7 million worth of racking in there.
Yeah, I saw some activity there yesterday.
$7 million worth of racking in there. This is going to be
Racking
a
and
distribution center.
Storage system.
So,
This is going to be a
it's going to be
HVAC company.
employees or?
Eventually, yes.
City. That's in the city.
Just
So-
a old Renfro building.
It took them a little while, but they had finally got moving on it.
It looks like they were powering things up yesterday with the utility trucks there.
So that'll help us too. We'll have more electricity.
Yeah.
We finally got it on the tax rolls, and those people are putting, that used to be a donut hole in the
That's
city.
right, that's
We
right.
worked on donut holes for probably 10 years in the early 2000s, and, you know, legislation and everything else. Naomi will remember all of that happened, so we were one of the beneficiaries of getting that a little stronger legislation so we could get things like that into the city.
Correct. So next page, you'll see just a quick, easy visual to see what our last year's budget was, what our requested budget is, what the delta between the two is, and the percentage change over the years. So at this point, I was just going to kind of quickly review each department,
Let's do that.
unless you guys have any other questions.
Go ahead.
All right. So the first department, mayor and council, not a whole lot of change here. I think an overall 6% change in budget. Most of that was just a restructuring of the health insurance with PIVA with new members.
How much did insurance go up with PIVA? That's pretty significant.
So this year, I'm projecting a 6 to 7% increase. That's what we've been told.
Yeah.
So I already have that built into the model. That's kind of where I put the model, and that's kind of, I can flex the number. So if it's going to go up to 10, I can make that change very easily.
So
But-
the negative on the administration up under, is that mayor council, the administration? You go back to mayor council,
Group health insurance,
Administration.
that's PIVA.
that
Group health insurance right there, yeah.
negative 4.4%.
Correct?
So when administration, is that,
That's city manager, city clerk. So mainly what the drop you're gonna see there is last year it was 3 full-time employees. This year it's 2.
so up on the council, mayor council, the administration, that's the administration for,
No, that's mayor, council department, administration department, it's each department.
okay,
So
so it was a drop, you're saying?
for administration, yes. There's a few departments that dropped, there was a few that went up. Overall, we had a 10% increase in revenue, we had a 10% increase in our expenses. So as we said, in administration, salaries and benefits dropped $139,000. That is strictly due to dropping from 3 employees to 2. So we have the current city manager and the city clerk in this department, where last year we had city manager, city clerk, and a contract employee. So, other than that, very small change in operational expenses. We do have the addition of, in the capital expenditure side, there's the general obligation bond, the $500,000 bond that we just issued. That will have a payment next fiscal year in May, I believe. And so that's the $49,109 towards the bottom of the page. The $342,000 is the payment that the general fund is due for the IPRB bond. And then you'll see under that, there's a contingency reserve. That's basically what I had left to balance out the budget. So that's basically if we had something unforeseen, that's my contingency reserve. Legal services, no change there. We're spending about that amount, so I continued that same process. Finance department, seems like a big jump, but the big jump really came with property insurance. So when I first came here, property insurance was allocated to every department. And for me, that's a lot of work to start spreading it around. So I made the change. I did make the change throughout the years going backwards, but basically I am having all property insurance come out of the finance department. So for the general fund insurance, it comes out of the finance. For the utility fund, it will come out of Public Works Administration. So instead of having to allocate and figure out who's got what, which is quite tedious, I decided to make it one spot. So it makes the processing a whole lot easier. And I think it just tells us a whole lot. I mean, to me, it's a little bit easier visual to look at. Now, property insurance and workman's comp insurance this year, we budgeted for a 15% increase. So last year we spent about $650,000. So this year I'm budgeted almost $800,000 for insurance.
Was that to do with the storms that we had this past year?
It has nothing to do with the storms. It has to do, workman's comp has to do with things like the firefighter that got killed or someone that gets injured on the job. We had a firefighter that tore his ACL while fighting a fire. So we get dinged for things like that. And they have, like workman's comp will have an experience rating where, you know, if we have too many accidents, our experience rating will go up. So we get hurt with that, but just in general, the insurance industry is going up 15 to 20%.
Yeah, and that's why we do all the safety, we do
That's why
a
we do
lot
our
of
safety
safety
meetings.
training.
I also asked Will this year to shop the only thing we can shop with the state accident fund would be our workman's comp, but we're actively looking for the best deal that we can get. Now, Travelers has been pretty good with us, and you know our representative that helps us through McGriff Insurance has been. I mean, I don't have any complaints, but we always shop every year.
So, going back to finance, you got 3 employees, correct?
Correct.
So that's percentage difference of that salary, 16.2.
Correct.
That's 5.4% per employee.
Yeah, there's the difference from last year to this year was we did a budget last year, and then when we got into July, Tom made a change, and he allocated some salaries into our department that came from the administrative department. Same thing over to risk. So that's why you see a big jump. Now, overall salaries across the board, we put in for a 5% COLA raise, just because, you know, we only did 2.5% last year. Inflation, as we all know, inflation is a real thing, and so is the price of eggs.
2.5 plus you did merit increase.
No, we did not. We did merit and everything last year was 2.5%.
And with the way insurance is going up now, that's basically holding even.
Everything's going up.
Yeah.
So if we don't, you know, our feeling as the management team is that if we don't do that, we already have enough trouble losing employees, you know, over $1 an hour. And if we don't have, this is the level that we feel this year needs to happen because of what we did last year, the inflation, and to help to try to keep employees.
So let me understand you correctly. You're saying last year that the employees only got 2.5%.
Correct.
So they didn't get the merit increase that
They're-
the council voted for them to get that increase. Plus, because we did a break there, you know, a scale. So you're saying that overall, that's all everyone got was 2.5%?
Correct. The raise last year was a merit, and based on that, every department had up to 2.5% to work with. That was all that was given, and that was all that was given out.
That other negotiation was 2 cycles ago,
All right.
where that was 2 years ago.
Mhm.
2 years ago, I wasn't here,
Yes, you were.
23.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yeah, you were
we
here.
did it,
You were here for the budget cycle.
that
for
first
22.
budget,
But that was the budget cycle
Your
that,
first budget is the budget where we had the,
Right.
and that was the one that we were
Yes,
late
the
on, that we did not
we
have.
did the COLA increase plus the,
That was 2 years ago. Last year, we only did 2.5%.
so
Right.
this year, we're increasing and we're gonna, in order to meet our budget, we're gonna increase on the citizens again, correct? Because
No.
that's what I'm seeing on your second sheet.
We're not pulling anything extra from the citizens.
Well, we're gonna increase, I mean, you're saying that, and I'm assuming that this is that 2063, we're gonna increase that now to 2475. That's the trash pickup?
Correct.
Is that right? So that's gonna be on the citizens?
That is
So
the
you
one
say
increase that's
necessary,
in.
you say it's necessary to increase it to cover personnel. So again, that's telling me that we cannot meet our budget if we got to continue to increase on our citizens.
No. The increase in sanitation, which we will get to when we get to the utility side, the increase in sanitation is because we have a $600,000 budget just to cover regular expenses. We also have a $325,000 trash truck and a $315,000 clam truck that are coming in that we have to pay for. So, and these are things that, this is equipment that we have to have because the old stuff is wearing out. And, you know, we get complaints because our clam truck is down and we're not out there in Lydia Mill to clean up the mess that's out there. So, to fund our operations, this is a $4.12 a month change. It doesn't, that is the biggest impact on a citizen. I did not raise property taxes. None of the other taxes have been raised. None of the other utility rates have been raised. That is the only thing that we had to do to work this budget. Now that's only overall, I think it was $137,000 out of the whole entire budget.
You either have that or rate or cut services, and our employees are the most valuable asset we got.
Our
But we've
employees
gotta
most
have-
definitely are the most valuable, and
So
I
you gotta
actually
pay 'em.
told other cities, that their rate increase is like right at 2.5% to 3%, and we're saying 5%. How do we justify that when we have had to pull money from the rate stabilization account?
We haven't pulled it from the only thing that came from the rate stabilization account has been for the hurricane. We
That's right.
We have not
It was
touched
for the
that.
hurricane, but it was also to pay salary too. because
No, it
we
wasn't.
couldn't.
Not this
It
year,
was
not
the
last year.
overtime to help pay overtime. The first amount that you
No, it
pulled
didn't.
out was to pay for overtime of the employees
For the hurricane.
for the hurricane.
We're
So we
being
had to
reimbursed
pull
for that.
money from that.
Well, let me shed some light on the rate stabilization fund. We currently have a sale of our surplus electricity. We looked at this the other day, and I got all the figures from PMPA, and we looked at this through 2035. Now, the rate stabilization account was built because in 2029, our rate was going to jump significantly. We pay about 10.5 million a year, 10.5 to 11 million a year. It was going to jump up into the $13 million range. That would be significant for our operations right now. That would hurt us very. So that was the whole intent and purpose, was to get us over that 4-year period with the rate stabilization account. Now, current day, we are getting ready to sell our excess capacity that we don't use, that we pay for right now. And in that process, in 2029, what this sale does, it flatlines our costs for the electricity, as it is today, all the way through 2035. Actually, 2034, and in 2035, it decreases by $2 million. Okay? I can afford that now, so I don't have to have any extra money all the way through 2035. So essentially, I don't need the rate stabilization account now because of that. And when we do sell in 2029, the city will have a $14.1 million influx of cash for the sale of their surplus. So we're way better off now in that scenario that will happen in 2029 than we were when I first came here and was like wondering how we were going to pay for electricity in 2029.
Yeah, with all that, we're gonna be able to stay pretty level on our rates.
But I will state this too, I did not take anything out of the rate stabilization account that wasn't approved by council, and it was done solely in the need for what came through with hurricane.
We understand that it was
And
approved
we're
by
gonna get-
council. My point is that we still had to take it to be able to meet, salaries.
No, I
You
couldn't-
said when I came here in 23, in 2022, we raised 2021, 2022, we raised property tax. Then we have did a penny increase on utility. Then we increased, last year on the sanitation to 2063. Now you're wanting to increase it again to 2475, just as well as the citizens are hurting too. Let us keep that in mind, that our citizens are here in Clinton are hurting.
So
And
then I would,
for us to-
then I would suggest we basically cut our services, stop picking up man-made goods and debris, and let them all take it to the dump themselves. I mean, that's our other option. You've got to pay the people. I mean, we've struggled to keep people in sanitation. We finally got a staff that's working. We finally have vehicles coming in that will help us get this stuff done. But it has to be.
We approved
But how do we pay for
last
it?
year or year before that excess, a scoop and 2 scoops, are we charging on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there you go, there's that extra money. If we're charging every citizens, every time that you going by and you picking up, and you're charging them, for 1 scoop, 2 scoop, whatever that they're picking up,
The first scoop is free. The first scoop, I say free. It's included in what you pay now. When you get the second, third scoop is what they bill for.
second and third scoop per pickup, or,
If they come to your house and you have an abnormally large pile of debris, man-made, or you've done some work on your home and you have that out there, the first scoop you will get free. It's included in your cost of services for your sanitation. The second, third, fourth, whatever it takes to remove that, that's what you were billed for.
Right.
and citizens are being billed for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And the stuff we took out of rate stave is gonna come back to us from FEMA.
Correct.
So it's not.
And probably some more, because we have
Yeah.
things like the pumps at the river station. We currently have that in mitigation, where we can actually get additional monies, not only just to fix what we had, but actually to improve it so the problem doesn't happen again. So we have a lot, things like that are gonna
The
be.
pump station at the river is important.
It is very important.
You can,
Very
you
important.
can say what you want to about anything, but you don't have water, things get primitive real quick.
When that money comes back, does it go back into the rate stabilization?
Yes.
Yes.
If we don't need that fund, as you say, what will we end up doing with that money, do you propose?
Whatever we need to. And I think at that point, we have some very, very major infrastructure wants and needs that are coming down, in the future. I think there's There's an electric substation that we have planned for the other side of town. It's $20 million plus.
And you can also use those funds to increase the days on hand of cash we have,
Correct.
which the bond companies and auditors like to see.
Is 2029 the first chance we have to sell that? Is that what you said?
Yes,
The extra
yes,
it's
electricity?
gonna, the way, the latest, scenario that we're looking at is gonna be,
2%.
it's gonna be, in 2029. But we're staying very level till then. They've run probably 4 different plans and scenarios to see how it benefits. See, we're in a 10-city joint action agency. And so it's, we have capacity that everybody needs capacity now going down in the future. Everybody's looking for future capacity. It's why by name.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's why Santee Cooper just put an RPI out for the VC Summer nuclear plant that was almost built and they couldn't get it. I mean, they've got 90% of the stuff is sitting there, stored and ready to go. So capacity is something that is in our favor. We went from having a sort of a bad situation to our situation is probably one of the best now in the 10 cities. We're going to be far better off than Newberry or Lawrence. So
There was a option to sell sooner, like next year, but it cost us $1 million. So it's us along with 8 of the other 10. It's better for us to wait till 2029.
right.
Okay.
So, and right now we can operate without it. I mean, it's not it's not going to change how we have been operating for the last.
We've had to do a lot of
Long time.
negotiating on this thing and not negotiating, but a lot of consensus building and with other cities that are our like cities, because we have some disagreements in PMPA that stem back about 10 years. So, but we've mended all of that now and are in a good position. So.
Correct. So those are things that are, good for our future.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's move.
I'm going to move on to the police department. And if you guys want a different format, I'm happy to do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to kind of glance through the highlights of each department. I am happy to say, finally for Michael's benefit, that we have a full police department.
That's good.
So hopefully we can start reducing some of our overtime that has been going, that we have been, had to have for the last couple of years. But I will have to say that if you look at the police department, the very first line on salaries, we're actually $2,100 less than last year. Michael did an excellent job of restructuring his department, using the people that are here, and promoting the ones that could be promoted, and also kind of semi-adjust the salaries that hopefully we don't keep losing them. And we lost a couple in the last several months that, went for $1 or so, not for a whole lot. And we don't want to put the investment in our officers or any of our employees really, just to lose them for $1
Right.
now. So overall,
We spend a lot of money getting them ready.
Right.
And I
That's
know
right.
Michael and y'all will all say that. We've had that for many, many years, and it's an important thing that we're doing.
Now, one thing you're probably going to see through most of the departments, there's big changes in the fuel oil lubrication line item. We finally have a system that allows us to track who takes what gas. So I can now, instead of just doing it by a guesstimate, we now have the exact usage for each department. So everybody's like, if you looked at the fuel budgeted for police last year was 75,000, this year it's 115. Well, that's because they're using about $115,000 a year of fuel. The other big thing is there's a reduction in the animal control. We are, we spent many, many months trying to figure out a way to have our own. And really and truly, until we come up with $1.5 million, it's very hard to do. The Lawrence County doesn't want to work with us bringing animals there. Therefore, having our own officer really doesn't do us any good. We are still going to continue paying the $30,000 a year to the county for their service.
But you're saying they don't want us to bring the animals there.
You were there. I mean, you had the meeting with them.
I know, but you're saying we're gonna continue to pay them, but they don't want us to bring any animals there.
We can't bring the animals to them. We can call them and they will come pick them up. We did, I think last year there was 500 animal control calls that they responded to here. I actually had one of them a couple months ago. I called Michael and we had a dog that was running around the fire substation, and in 15 minutes they were there and picked it up.
By the way, they did agree to start patrolling more.
Correct.
Even though, which I still haven't seen that, but they did agree that they would start patrolling more to kind of deter, and hopefully people would see the animal patrol and think, oh, they may get my dogs. But again, I haven't seen that. Hopefully they will start doing that.
Well, there was a lot of good things that came out of that meeting. They did agree to patrol more. They are responsive to us. Your request, Ms. Williams, to put the letters in our utility bills has resulted in 14 new tags this week, which means I have to go buy new tags because we're running out.
I was walking this morning with somebody just registered 3 dogs, and my 3 dogs are
And
registered.
we could increase that fee.
We could, but once again, that fee isn't going to really do much for us. So now, jumping over to fire.
Before you go back, fully employed, what does that consist of? Like, how many employees are per shift? Police department, where you was at? You said we was fully employed.
So we had a budget of 31 ever since I've been here for almost going on 2 years now. They have never been fully staffed. We are fully staffed. We have 4 shifts of 3 patrol officers that are on duty all the time. We have
And I have one full-time on Boulevard Street.
mhm. And this also has our investigators and all that.
Well, part of the, years when we've been fighting, and well, not fighting, but discussing about the local government fund, the cuts we got from that before we got those cuts, and the state was using the money that was supposed to be coming to us, that we were running 5 on a shift.
Right.
And I went down and testified several times back in the early 2000s, and didn't work much, but with the other people, the counties and the cities and that fund is beginning to work its way back into, it's what they call full funding, but it's not full funding yet.
Well, see, here's another example of, in the next 3 to 5 years, with the growth that's coming, we're going to need to grow that shift. So in the next 3 to 5 years, our goal is to add 4 new patrol officers. But now, a patrol officer, when you put in benefits, you're talking $75,000 to $80,000 per officer, full benefits. But then you have a $60,000 car. You have another probably $5,000 to $6,000 of equipment that has to go with them. I mean, it's very expensive. So,
But very necessary.
That's where, once again, that's where the development comes in to provide us property taxes that help us operate.
So how many police officers we have versus detectives?
That's
There's
us.
2 full-time, there's one that is hired coming off patrol, so that makes 3.
The detectives, you're talking about 3 detectives?
Well, that includes the investigating supervisor and the other 2 investigators, which the investigative supervisor is also over the SROs spread out, he's pretty taxed.
So these 31, that's include those SROs as well?
Correct.
Seven
The
S-
SROs
seven
are-
SROs.
Yeah,
It's 7.
yep.
Yes. That we get funding through the state.
7 SROs. And how many investigators?
3.
3.
3. Okay, then the rest of them are officers, or not?
That's correct. Well, the 2, you get the dispatcher, we have an ethics person who helps us.
Oh, so that include dispatchers. This total of 31 include dispatchers
That's the
too?
entire department.
Pardon me?
That's the entire department.
Okay, so that's 2 dispatchers.
And that includes, myself and the law, the administrative staff.
Thank you.
Madam?
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so the fire department, you're gonna see a very large increase in salaries and benefits. Part of this is due to, last year, we were running a very skeleton crew, and Jeremy had an idea where we could pull in part-time firefighters to cover shifts. So we boosted up our part-time. Basically, we had a part-time firefighter for every shift, but 1 shift a month. Okay, so 1 day a month we didn't have a part-timer, and that's how we built the budget. Well, in reality, didn't work that way. We couldn't get the part-timers, so we spent more money paying overtime for the guys that were, the full-time people. So we have adjusted that this year. I think there was if there's one area that I missed last year, this was it. But we reevaluated. This is the costs that are running right now for salaries and benefits for fire are about where we're running right now. So it shouldn't get any worse. And I think we also have a couple guys that are coming back. We have had a couple that, unfortunately you still have to pay for. They're on, medical leave. We still have to, they're doing light duty. They can't run a shift, but we got them doing some work and they still cost us money. But they're coming now full staff. Actually, one of those firefighters that had torn his knee came back on full time today, which was good news for us. So I think, this is a more realistic, we're gonna hit it. We're still relying some on part-timers, but not like we were last year.
So you have 15 and you want to increase 2 more. Is that what that?
Well, we had to, we currently have the 15. In the budgeted number of 17, 2 of those guys were out. Okay, 1 is on military leave. And
Yeah,
won't be
I'm
back
just saying
until-
you're requesting 2 additional.
Correct.
Right.
Other than that, no major change except for support, the way we budgeted support equipment. Last year, we kind of threw it all down in the capital area. This year, we have it up in our operating expenses. Most of that's gonna be like replacement air tanks or firefighters' uniforms and stuff like that. Streets department, we've done a little moving of personnel between street sanitation and right-of-way this year. That's why you're gonna see a decrease in the personnel. We went down two people in streets. Once again, their fuel, oil, and lubrication went up just because of actual usage. Other stuff was, besides we had another increase in the street maintenance because they have a lot more plans to fix roads this year, a lot more roads to be fixed, and that's on the agenda.
The fuel oil lubrication, I guess I'm understanding it correctly. You basically just figured out who's using the gas.
I took what I paid in gas and I just applied a percentage and put it out to departments. That's how I got spent the previous year.
Okay.
So now I actually have, when someone goes to our tanks to get gas, they have to bring their badge, put it in their department, or actually it brings their department based on their badge. They pump their gas, and now I get a report at the end of the month to allocate out what was actually used to each department.
So police and fire use a lot more than you expected, and who's using a lot less? It's
Probably
okay
right
if you
away.
don't. It's okay if you don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, it's all the same number because I pay the same, I have the
You know
HD.
how much you paid total?
I know what I paid
Yeah.
to get it. I just didn't have a good, it just kind of was.
Breakdown where it was charged.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, when I first got here, there was just, here's your allocation between all the departments.
Okay.
I
So,
thought we didn't have a right-of-way crew.
we do.
We do.
We've had it since I've been here.
Contracting people to do,
Some of the additional work that we need to have done. That we don't have any certified tree trimmers, people that can be up in the boom and trimming trees, so we have to pay a service to do that.
But we still have to have right-of-way to bush hog our right-of-ways for our water and sewer lines and under our power poles. We have to keep those right-of-ways clean so we can get in there and access them when we need them.
so where is that?
That's in the utility department.
That's utility?
Yep.
Okay,
We'll get there in a little while.
okay.
Can I go back to the fuel? We had a fire back in 21, I believe. And at that time, we had a fuel control system. And it was damaged in the fire.
Over at,
So-
over at.
Yeah, DPW. So we had to wait, it took us a year or so to get the building back online, and then we had to bid out, contract out the installation of the new system. So during that time was when Carl came on, and we didn't have a good way to keep up with our fuel allocation. So we now have that system up and going, and it's doing what we needed to do.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
All right, Parks and Recreation. We are requesting an additional body. We have 3 currently in the division. And we are getting ready to have all that land turned over to us, and that is a lot of grass. Now, so that's really one person. It's not a huge budget because you're not gonna pay a lot for just a grass cutter, but we also have worked out some coverage between the right-of-way division, so when we get in peak times, we have additional crews that can come over and help. Other than that, the big change in parks is the additional line for professional services of $50,000. That was added by Mr. Ergel for turf management. There's gonna be it's not just cutting the grass, it's taking care of the grass.
And he's good at it.
He's very good at it, I trust him. We're just, it does, it's a very important piece. We just spent, what, $10 million on that facility. We'd like to keep it looking nice.
What is that power consumed?
Power consumed that's our internal billing. There's a utility department bills out but doesn't collect. I mean, the city doesn't charge itself, but that's theoretically what would be billed out and what would be charged to each department. Now, I also did add a little bit of money, not a whole lot, but $500 a month to the YMCA program. Try to give them a little bit extra. Harold and I had a discussion a few months ago, and basically our contribution level 10, 15 years ago was 30%, and now we're down into 20s and teens. So it's not a whole lot, but it's at least something.
We ought to be able to grow that usage too. This is when
Yes.
we get into the regular schedule, once the other fields get up and going, it's gonna be really nice for our children.
Correct.
Well, on that, I've noticed the last 2 years at the Y, either whether it be the front or the back, 1 year it's the front, 1 year it's the back. We used to just have like I was on Nichols this year, we used to just have Nichols on the front and then the kids, number or whatever. But last year, I think it had City of Clinton, the symbol. I mean, are we paying like as a sponsorship, or is that a grant, or what is?
We do that separately. It's a sponsorship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jen has to have our name on the
Mm.
official.
Yeah, and that's another way to help Harold fund some of the stuff that
Right,
goes on.
'cause like I know, like Nick and them, Nichols pays so much to have their name on a, you know, a uniform.
Correct. And the other thing that did drop off of here was the library costs. Since we're not paying rent for that anymore.
And the new library is very, very nice.
Very, very nice. All right. Municipal court, not a whole lot of change, but we did make the move. This current fiscal year, we tried to move to push our bond court to the county, which required a change of software systems. It horribly just didn't work very well, so we are coming back and gonna bring our judges back here and go back to law tracks and go back to what worked best for us. Other than that, no major changes.
But right now, we're down a judge, correct?
We are down a judge, yes. But we will quickly rectify that situation. And also the clerk of court.
Do we have somebody sitting in as Dowdy's seat right now? Lucretia's, is somebody?
Yes, we do.
Okay, gotcha.
We have one of the girls that came over to utility billing is filling in over there for us right now. So, now, community development, this is where we fund our Main Street. So, you'll see last year we did not have a salary in here, we did not have an employee. Our thoughts here are with transition and where we're going now, and with everything that's going to happen, we probably want to look at a economic development person. There's a lot that's going to be, you know, Joey, myself, Will can handle a lot, but when it comes to all the finance details and deals that need to be made with each person coming in, we felt that, you know, we wanted to at least have something earmarked to bring somebody in.
Would that be under CEDC or just city?
No, that will be under
Just
city.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. And they will work with the CEDC
Okay.
very hand in hand. You know, I'll be working with them from the financial side, and this person would theoretically be working from all the projects that we got going on. Because when I did discuss the projects that we have with Sandy, there's 7 or 8 live projects right now, and they're very big. So it's important to have a set of eyes on that at all times. Because honestly, just in 2 of the deals, I mean, you're looking at about $2.5 million in just sale of land.
Okay, and while we're increasing the Main Street, Clinton,
Main Street, Clinton, we pay Jim Spry to run Main Street. So the city pays part of the salary that goes to Main Street. So Main Street, it's its own organization. And so we pay half, CEDC pays the other half for their operating. So that $35,000 is for Main Street. That's our half to Main Street to cover salaries, their office space, their operating expenses, and all that. Now, when you go down below to special events that's the funding that the city has always paid for things like Rhythm on the Rails or Scots and Broads, and you know, all the things that Jim Spry is funding right now. So Jim actually brought a budget to me. We worked through his budget. I made sure this will make sure that it hits and is sufficient for him. Jim will also be, hopefully this year, will be funding Rhythm on the Rails, Scots and Broads, and one other thing through the A-Tax. So the city won't have to pull the A-Tax and pay this. Main Street will actually pull it from the state A-Tax fund, and then they can operate that, and we won't have to to mess with it anymore, which is a huge win for us.
Right.
So you said that special events, which is the stuff downtown that we
Correct.
went through $75,000.
Yes, ma'am. Well, this year we're gonna end up probably in the neighborhoods of 55 to 60. Now, what we're trying to do with special events, that's kind of where the bucket is right now. That special events with the A-tax funding his need for that 75,000 will go down. Probably about $40,000. But what we're trying to do is, as we're going through all this growth, the one big thing that we really want to do in the city, which is we're hoping to fund through special events, is waypoint signs. The welcome signs when we come into the city, they're pretty horrible. You know, they're a chain link fence that's been painted green with a couple signs on it. They look horrible. So as we shift the A-tax money to his special events, that opens up some of the other monies that we can make those signs as people are coming into Clinton look a whole lot better. Really take them out and, you know, redesign them. But you know, I go up to Rock Hill. Here's a great example. I pulled off the highway in Rock Hill, and first thing I see off the highway is a waypoint sign saying the aquatic center is this way, this is this way. You know, giving you kind of, you know, where are the main things in the city. So as people are coming in, here's the downtown area, here's Vance Park. You know, helping people find their way around. It's not a whole lot, but it adds value and makes our city look much, much better and much more friendly.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's the plan. Other than that, no big changes. Now, I did also the $8,000 that you see that increased on the special events. That also is the fireworks show that we have to do every year, which keeps getting more expensive. Museum department, no major change. Planning and inspections. Now, in theory, it looks like I'm adding an extra part-time person there, and the increase in salaries. When we did last year's budget, obviously, Ashley Rochester was still here. I had my old team, and it was, you know, it was those people. Now, we replaced Ashley with Jeff, but Ashley was inspections and planning. Jeff is just inspections. So what you see increased there is basically Phil Lindner, what we had to pay for Phil Lindner to come in. Phil is a contract employee. Phil does an amazing job.
Phil's very good at what he does.
We don't ever want to lose Phil. At least that's my feeling. Other than that, there's a couple changes up and down within his stuff. I'm
sorry. The planning inspection is going to be two employees,
Well,
right?
Phil is part-time. Phil works about 8 hours a week.
So that percentage difference is about 17.85.
But you gotta understand, we pay Phil as a contract employee. Contract employees cost us a lot more than a regular employee because they have to cover their own taxes and their own insurance. So Phil is paid that. Phil's salary, what he costs us about $50,000 to $55,000 a year, which is better than having a full-time employee because then I would have to add FICA, retirement, and insurance on it.
Right. It's like having a
One thing I may ask
adjunct faculty like Danny.
Carl to do though, to help us better understand, is to create it's his choice to make, but I've asked for a new line item for contract labor to pull that out so we can see salaries versus contract labor and understand it better. In regards, since he is really not a W-2 employee, he's a 1099, and that way it'll match up better.
Yeah. And that's an easy change, but it's not gonna change the overall number. It's
Right.
It's
just gonna
it's
break
just
it
gonna
out
move it
better
over.
for us to understand it.
How much did you say he works an average week?
About 8 to 10 hours a week.
8 to 10 hours.
Yeah. Now, Phil is also going to be incorporating our comprehensive plan, which is a must-have that we have to have this year. And the added benefit of having Phil do with us is he has a template that he can use, and it will save us roughly $20,000 than paying an outside organization to come in and help us do that. So, I mean, he really pays for himself.
I'm glad to hear you say comprehensive plan. That's very important.
Yes, sir. It is, it's right up there. He's starting on it. Hopefully we have that done in a few months. Honestly, I don't know how long it takes. I've never built one. So, but, I fully expect that it will be a very good work of art from Phil. So.
Yep.
All right, the rest of the stuff is various state accommodations, really no change there. That's the money that comes in from the state, from their 2% accommodation tax that gets split out to every municipality. We have to spend it for Natalie and Danny. The way that works is we get about $125,000 a year, so that money is in the front in our revenue. That $125,000, the first 25 goes to the city. Then the next 5% goes to the city, then 30% to basically the chamber, and then the other 65% gets split up. We have a tax committee that will take applications and then do a vote and split that money between the people that apply for it. Local accommodations and local hospitality, the only expense in there is the H&A tax side of the IPRD bond payment. So our bond payment is roughly $630,000, and that's split between the regular general fund and the H&A side. All right. I know this is boring.
Well, it's very informative.
Let's keep moving.
Thank you.
So, all right, let's talk about utility revenues. This is almost cookie cutter from last year. As I said, when I budget revenue, I budget based on where we actually are, how we're performing. So this year, our electric revenue has been it's slightly above budget. So we will make budget and then some. Joey and I discussed this. We decided that, with what's coming and what the possibility is, and you never know. You could have a hot year or cold year that might just throw you up a more cost or more income. But at 2%, what we felt like a 2% growth was obtainable. If you notice back in 23-24 budget, we were at 15.4. We just made that. We're gonna just make our 15.9 this year, so I have no doubt it will make the number next year, especially with the growth. You think about when Renfro building gets going on, that probably almost makes up most of it right there. So I think this is a very attainable number. We took off new installations because we are not charging, no longer charging that 25%. I will say this current fiscal year, one thing that we did not anticipate on the utility side, the two neighborhoods that came online that we had to cover 100% of the utility install cost us about $800,000. That was an increase from 112 the year before.
That was
Electric only. So that hurt us. That's another thing that hurt the utility side last year. Now, what is not in here that I would like to propose is we have an opportunity to generate some other revenue other than just electric from the lineman group. Every development that comes in here now, basically they have to pay for the install, the equipment, everything, 100% their costs. But the process is it's handed over to engineers that we hire, they work for us, they design the system, and then we contract out an install group, basically. My thought here is we could add 3 linemen And basically 2 or 3 of these neighborhoods a year cover their salary and the equipment that we need for them. And then the rest of the year, we got them to help, and it didn't cost us a dime extra. So that's something that we really want to look into, and I think in the next draft, put in.
That'll save us money all overall, won't it?
Well, what it does is,
Give us more
if you
people.
think about it, let's say we even worked 6 months out of the year doing the installs in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I've got those 3 guys for the other 6 months to help our other linemen catch up with all the work that they have.
Yeah.
Because, you know, just like the trash situation, where I was, you know, my street lights out, this is not fixed, you know. It's bodies that we need. And I think this is a good way to do that. And I think with the development coming in, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, we're not gonna have trouble keeping them busy.
I think that's a great plan.
So,
And is that would we then lend our assistance if there was need somewhere else and
Yes,
we would
ma'am.
get paid?
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, always. Matter of fact, we just got the check from Orlando, which was a nice check to get. Now, water and sewer, I left completely the same. The reason being, those are the 2 revenue items that are about 1 to 2% behind for the current year. So, I just left them the same. Growth next year, we'll pick it up and we'll get there. As we spoke about already, there is the increase that I'm asking for in the sanitation. That basically is $4.12 per household per month for sanitation. But as I explained, we have a $600,000 budget, and just making $600,000 doesn't help me get the proper equipment. It doesn't help the city get the proper equipment for those guys to do their job and not have, you know, the constant complaints. Other than that, the credit card fees went down. Reason being for that is that most people that are using a credit card now are paying through Acceleron. Acceleron bills them their fees separately, so we don't ever have to have it go through our bank.
How is that prepay working now?
It's all
I
right.
mean, how many citizens do we have on that, and how much is the city paying?
I don't know the exact numbers, but
Last I saw, we had 60 or 61.
And how much does the city have to pay for that?
Right off the top of my head, I don't know, it's several $1,000s a year for the service. But right now, with our credit card situation, they are one of the only ways we can take credit card payments over the internet for people to pay the bills.
Right.
We utilized a company that no longer will work with us, will work with Munis. So we're in talks with a different company to bring them online to help us take credit card payments.
So you're saying prepaid is the only way customer can pay their credit card is by us having that prepay system?
it's
Go ahead.
Is that what you're saying?
it's the same company that runs the prepaid that allows people to pay with the credit card.
But they don't have to be signed up for the prepaid program.
They do not.
today.
No, they do not.
They do not.
They just have to have a My Usage account, and they can pay with their credit card. And then that eliminates the fee going through our bank. I mean, it's beneficial so even if the prepay isn't fully paying back, it's paying for itself with the citizens being able to go and charge their cards through there. Now, as Joey mentioned, the credit card processor that we currently had, or we had with Munis, Munis was actually phasing them out and making us go to a Munis product, which was going to raise the credit card fee significantly for our customers. So we were in talks with another group. They were going to give us the solution for free, but lo and behold, they couldn't make it work with our system, and then they were going to start charging us exorbitant amounts of money to customize the software. So staying with this is a much more viable solution for the city right now.
And as we get, we'll continue to look.
We'll continue to look, but, you know, right now.
But it's the convenience of doing credit cards for a lot of citizens and,
Sure.
and actually getting the payment instead of losing the payments.
More people pay with credit cards now than they do with cash. And that wasn't the way our citizens paid their bills the last couple of years. They're transitioning to that now. Excuse me. The other thing with the prepaid plan, which is, it has the My Usage with it. We have more people using My Usage, of course, to pay their credit card bills, but also are able to keep up with their utility bills and go online and see what their usage actually is.
That's a good thing.
So, you know, it's okay for it to cost us a little bit of money. It doesn't cost us, you know, a significant amount, what I would consider a significant amount. It's not gonna change, you know, move the needle that far. Maybe even at $10,000 a year, it's not that big of an expense to have the ability.
Really?
Well, so if we didn't pay that, we take all that benefit away from the citizens, and now the citizens are gonna pay not 2.3% on their transactions, but 4.5%. And that's being dictated by Munis because they're trying to force us into that path because they now get the fees instead of the other banks. So, you know, it helps us save the citizens money. That way, you know, we can absorb the sanitation costs increase.
That's a good plan.
All right, so there's not a whole lot in Public Works that's going to be a huge change. Danny did talk to me earlier, and on Public Works, the banking services I had pushed down to 25,000. That was that really needs to be back up to 75. So the next draft I will be moving that up. That was just an oversight on my part. The other big drop was the property insurance. That's just because when I consolidated to the two spots, like I mentioned earlier, for property and general liability insurance, that's where that falls out for them. Once again, insurance before used to be just kind of a wag, and we threw it out there based on a percentage. So we were getting a little bit more scientific, but just, you know, making it easier for ourselves by sticking it in one spot instead of multiples. Other than that,
Carl, talk about FASB
GASB.
GASB just for one quick second.
So the GASB 45 which is under Public Works, it's also under the Finance Department. This is where we pay for previous employees, retired employees' health insurance. So we pay about $120,000 a year for their health insurance. So the 50,000 here is the utility funds side of that expense. All right. Sanitation. While it looks like I am decreasing personnel, what I realized last year is the budget last year, what it said 6 employees for sanitation was actually only 3. We ran a very bare bones. So the numbers for the 24-25 approved budget for sanitation salaries and benefits was based solely on 3, not the full 6. This year we have shuffled around, and we're running that with about 5. We are full staffed, so this should be a very realistic cost for the department.
So you're saying 5?
Yes, ma'am.
So, but at the difference, 81%, so 16.28 per employee?
The difference is you had employees that were $15, $14, $15 an hour employees in last year's budget. This year I've got 3 CDL drivers sitting in this department. CDL drivers cost me a lot more than a regular sanitation person. Because their certifications for driving those trucks cost us more money. They can go anywhere else and get a lot more money. But once again,
CDL drivers for everything.
yep,
Yes,
I mean,
I'm aware of that.
you have
So
to,
3 CD drivers that you have.
yes ma'am.
Thank you.
And once again, they may rotate through streets. You know, we have a crew that works together to make sure that everything's getting done as it's supposed to. All right. Information technology, not a whole lot of change in salary and benefits. We have basically our operational costs going up. We have currently are in the midst of a conversion from our old Microsoft solution that was paid through PMPA to having to pay for Microsoft 365 on our own. That's about $12.50 a month per person that gets that. So,
Wasn't we needing more equipment or something?
well, that's down in capital.
Okay.
So there is some of the software increases you'll see. I mean, basically the $40,000 difference in his operations is software and some of the firmware that goes along with like our routers and stuff like that. The 168 is, you know, his normal refresh. You know, we refresh routers, servers, all that every 4 to 5 years. They have a very short lifespan and you need to refresh them instead of having a catastrophic fault.
The new system for emails is much better.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Well, I don't like it because my desktop's not working.
Okay, well, I don't like it. No. I'm just kidding.
No, they just don't have the
It sure
kinks.
helps me.
As with any
And I'm
implementation,
not
the
really
kinks
a
gotta
fan.
get worked out.
Yeah.
All right. Utility billing, not a whole lot of change. We did have the addition of Terra this year, which is included in our staffing for the next fiscal year. Other than that, the only thing that really went up is our Itron cost, which is about 17,000. Other stuff, you know,
What is the refund and correction?
the what?
Refund and correction, 5,000 increase there?
So we have to, if we made a mistake and we had to do refunds to customers, that's where it gets charged to.
Okay, so it's just a fund,
Or-
it's just sitting there in case.
Yeah.
And
And
the morale and welfare was,
that's out. And so that line should be deleted.
okay, so customer service guarantee, that's what I'm looking at then.
Yep.
So the morale and welfare is,
Yep. But no major changes there. Electric distribution, like I said, this is our normal increase on salaries, and we did add one extra lineman right now. There is a need for another crew lead, which we did add. Now, if we go to the model where we put in the install crews, this crew lead would fall in between both of those groups. So that's the change in salary and benefits. The major change is I pushed our electric power purchases up from 10.8 million to 11 million with PMPA, just because with the added additional 2% that we expect to come in, I'm gonna have a little bit of an increase coming in on the power that we do purchase. Other than that, and we've run pretty tight on this. We've run probably about 67-68% of what our electric revenue billing is what this cost us. So when PMPA kind of filters out in 2034, that percentage will probably drop from a 67-68% to about a 50%, which will be very beneficial to the city. Now, the one thing at the bottom on capital for the electric is I have 274,000 in there for the capital system. Most of that is a grant that Joey is working on, that if we get it, that is our match for the grant. Now, that grant will take care of a lot of things. Joey can give you more details on it. But some of the benefits, if we get that grant, is that we can probably eliminate all of the right-of-way tree cutting in right-of-way department, because it will be covered under the grant. But,
And if we fail to get the grant, this $274,000 we have here
goes away.
will make up for what we didn't put in the budget. We had, we had pole testing in that grant. We had an OMS system in that grant, which would allow the customer to go online and see where we have power outages. They can look in there and see why the outages in the area. And the other part was right-of-way trimming. Those are three things that we normally budget for. Well, the OMS is new, but the pole testing and the right-of-way is what we normally budget through the year, but we've got it tied into this grant this year. So if we fail to get the grant, the $274,000 will cover those three line items.
Well, do we know when we would know if we get the grant?
I should know something later on this month. Our application has been pushed up to the federal level. It got through the state. It's been pushed to the federal level, and they are working on those now, and we should have that information by the end of the month.
All right. So right-of-way maintenance, no increase in personnel. General increase, the main increase in their salaries and benefits really was the workman's comp. Other than that, most of the expense items for them were, I mean, there was only a $2,700 change overall in their overall expense structure. Sanitary sewer, once again, we've got 4 budgeted, which is the same as last year. I think we're what, at 2 right now? Actually, I only have 2 full-time people there. So there's 2 openings in sanitary sewer. But this is what it would be if it was fully staffed. So, you know, once again, if we don't have the staff there, our costs are running us lower. The only big change in sanitary sewer is the line that says Lawrence County Water and Sewer Treatment. When I came in the first year, I really didn't know much about that, what was in that line. I went with what was there previously, which was way, way off. Last year, we tried to make an adjustment. We got somewhat there, but this year at 1.5 million would match our costs that we are currently experiencing with what we have to pay Lawrence County for what our sewer goes through. Now, Joey has a project that we think could significantly reduce that by maybe about $600,000. There's a sewage project that he has that when we get that underway, if it fixes the problem as we expect, that could potentially go down by $50,000 a month, which would be significant.
That project will begin June the 2nd.
Yep.
Well, the customers that see that,
Customers don't see that. That's our cost.
Okay.
So the customers pay their sewer bill just like normal. This is our cost for our sewage to go
Okay.
through Lawrence County.
We have, you probably heard us speak of I&I. So the regular sewer charge is based on your water usage. The I&I is additional water from groundwater that gets into our sewer system that passes through Lawrence County Water and Sewer's meter and goes to be treated, that we're charged for. So these projects that we're doing with these RIA grants and things like that, we have already reduced some of our I&I, but this one is going to be a very big project for us. And so we will realize that savings because we're having to pay for that additional rainwater that gets into the system, and that's not pushed back to the customer.
All right, other than that, sanitary sewer is pretty straightforward. Storm sewer, overall, we did not change the expense structure at all. I mean, $2,400 on this one also. There was an allocation, a reallocation from incidental expenses up to our system maintenance.
So we don't have employees for that.
No, we do not. They fall under sanitary sewer, but I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. All right, water distribution. We're running one less person in the budget. We had 5 budgeted for last year. We have only run 3 or 4 in this department all last year. We decided we're gonna try to run that same this year. So we took that extra personnel out of the budget. The only other thing is, from there, I've got a little bit, $25,000 increase on system maintenance. Other than that, that's pretty much the majority of the changes there. Water filtration, same thing. Last year, they were at 7. Currently, we're running 6 people in water filtration, and we had one of our operators pass away during the year, and we gave them a challenge to run as is, and they did. They have. But we have added a person back in the budget as a trainee because this is an area that we're very susceptible. I can get someone poached in this area in a heartbeat. Once these guys get their operators, certifications, we could lose them. So to have a little bit of safety net, we have added a trainee in this budget. Now, we don't have that person now, but it's there if we want it. And they can run on the 6. And that's, I had to give it to Max. Max gets in there and works as a manager, but he's out there doing a shift work just like all the other operators. So I think it's
You're right, that's a very competitive field.
Yeah.
That's
And
our most vital resource, we can try, period.
yeah.
Tell people that's America. If you see the water that comes in from the river, and then you see when you cut on the tap, it's a miracle.
Yep.
They work wonders.
We did add a little bit of extra money for system maintenance. There is a little bit of capital for them because some of their equipment at the filter plant is needing to be replaced. But I mean, their capital is only $88,000. Fleet, no major changes with fleet at all. And then the last department, which is the risk department, risk and human resources. No major changes here. This is one of the areas where we budgeted last year and then Tom reallocated salaries over here. That's why you see the big jump in salaries. But those have been in place. That was what Naomi talked about. We have a line item. We reallocated that line item. This is where it fell out, but it doesn't match up to where the previous budget used to be. So that's the only reason why you see the big change there. Other than that, there are some initiatives that we have going on with the risk management department. One of them being our website, which is horribly needing a lot of attention. I have asked them to look at a Civic Plus is one of the options out there that's kind of a cookie cutter. They do government, that's all they do. So everything has a same look and feel. You can go to TKK or one of their other customers, it's almost the same kind of transaction, but it allows me to go in there, me, not a programmer, to go in there and rebuild a page or change an image or put up some different verbiage up on the website. We do have another couple other offerings to look at, but my edict is I gotta have it simple because I gotta have the people here that can make that change. Other than that, that's really it's not a huge bunch of changes. The revenue is fairly similar. as you know, I like to be very conservative in my budget. Let's, you know, when I came in here, I don't think we ever hit a utility budget at all. Because, you know, we always push that up to make the numbers be what we need to spend. Now we're spending what we have to spend based on what we're actually gonna bring in.
It's, Carl, I appreciate the good work you've done, you and all your staff, Carl, and everybody that's been working on this. We're so much more solid now than we were a couple of years ago even. And I appreciate the work. It's a great look at a balanced budget, and your work does not go unnoticed.
Thank you.
By folks who've been doing this for a while, so appreciate it very much. Is that everything that you wanted to talk about?
That's all I have right now. What we'll plan to do is anybody has any, you know, as we go through the next week, I'll open this up for the next week. If you have anything to bring to mind, I'm glad to look at it. You know, as Naomi said, if I take from here, or if I add here, I got to take from somewhere. You know, you know, we're in a balanced situation, but that's why we have the contingencies. That's why I have something built in there that can absorb that change. So, you know, I'm happy to look at that. What I'll do is from here in the next week, if we don't have any major changes, I will lock it. We will draft it. We'll publish it for the June 2nd meeting. Once we do that, we'll go through our meeting. Immediately after that, we will post a notice for public hearing. Schedule the next session for June 18th. And as long as we don't have any major changes, we can go ahead and publish it and be done with it.
Good. All right, before we leave, Danny, will you tell everybody about the ribbon cutting, the trails thing?
Just the Lawrence County Trails Association is having their ribbon cutting on Thursday of next week, May 22nd at 11 a.m. It's the May White Azalea Trail. That is a big deal for our county and will continue to help us build our trails, and to include at some point down the road more of the Swamp Rabbit Trail, which will be great to connect, you know, Greenville, Fountain Inn, Simpsonville, Lawrence, Clinton, down to Joanna, to Newberry, and then keep going to hit the Palmetto Trail at some point in time. But the dedication, and we will have some of our elected officials there also from the state. So if you can be there based on your work schedule and time, it's at the Lawrence County Park, and it's at 11 a.m. next Thursday morning.
Also want to draw, just before we adjourn, attention to once again welcome a new city manager at the first official meeting. So Mr. Meadows, we're glad you're here and look forward to moving forward with everything we're going to be doing. All right, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Walsh, second from Mr. Kirkendall. Any questions or comments?
I would like to make a comment. On a number of cases, now this is the time of year we really recognize, you know, the niceness of the flowers and everything that's blooming and the grass is beginning to turn green. But we've got a canopy group that's been working really hard. And I've noticed them in several areas of our town. Different bypasses out at near Highway 56 going out, trying to clean those areas up, islands, you know. And today I noticed them, they were in downtown on the corner, East Main and whatever that is. Yeah, that's right, thank you, Jordan. And, you know, toot the horn and thank them for the work they're doing. That's a group that really gets no recognition, but what they do is so powerful. Because they do it on their own. There's no funds involved other than maybe they may dip out of their own pockets. I don't know. But
well, part of that is actually Jim Spry did have some of the funds that we use with what went to Main Street for that.
Well, those are volunteers, and they do a good job, and they need to somehow be recognized. So if you see them about working, throw your hand up at them and give them a good cheer. 'Cause
Don't run by and honk the horn at them, you scare them.
All right, anybody falling on a spade?
All right, we got a motion second to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We are adjourned.
When is it?
June the 2nd.
Okay, so we.